So now I am in charge again. I like this. Now I think we all have a really solid platform regarding the long-term vision of rural areas, but we need some further information. I would like to welcome once again Marion Eckardt, Vice President of ELAD. And ELAD has, during the fall, performed a survey on the implementation of the long-term rural vision among the member states. And you are going to present the results. But before you can start to speak.
I can start to speak.
You can start because we are short on time. But I would like to show you this once again. Menti.com. If you have any questions to Marion, you write them in Menti. But just to keep you even more alert than you already are, we have a new code. Haha, you can't use the same one once again. No, no, no. You see the code? 87980323. Have you all managed to put it in? Now, Marion.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. How does this work? I just forward. Easy. Yes. We did in ELAD stakeholder survey on the long-term vision on rural areas because it has been a big process going on so far, and we wanted to find out a little bit how it looks like in the view of the stakeholders, and also about concrete funding opportunities in rural areas and implementation of community-led local development in rural areas. Oh. Yes, and first now where am I? There I am. Yes, so first we had the framework. We did this survey in October, and the target group was the ELAD representatives. The representatives of the leader networks, they know a lot about rural development in their countries, but of course they are not the governments. So it is how have they been made aware in their position of the long-term vision, for example. And we have had 24 countries that answered. 3 of them were neighboring countries, and we have cleaned the results a little bit about that because some of the questions are not relevant. So we for neighboring countries because they have completely different programs. So 21 countries are represented in the results that we are showing, and we have missing data from Czech Republic, France, Kosovo, Luxembourg, and Serbia. So the background, like why we started asking questions on the long-term vision on rural areas, we wanted to know if there are any good examples out there on how the long-term vision on rural areas has been taken up on different member states. Here. I can see it here now. Therefore we asked the question if the governments took an active role in giving input to the long-term vision on rural areas, or if they have been communicating the process of developing the long-term vision on rural areas, or if they communicated the final results even. And then also what measures have been taken now when it has been finally communicated from the Commission. Sorry. So on the first question, if the government took an active role in giving input to the long-term vision on rural areas, the most common answer is somewhat, and that is maybe not a surprise because people like to put the in between. When you see these diagrams, you should be aware of there is one alternative that is to a very large extent, but it was not, nobody chose that, so the biggest one is to a large extent. And we can see that Austria was one of the countries where they answered to a large extent, and we can see throughout the presentation that they have been very active in this. They have been informing and encouraging their stakeholders, the local action groups and the general public to take part in this. And they have been hosting a fringe workshop during the Rural Vision Week. They have been hosting seminars for LAGs on how to do this. So they have gotten a lot of input from rural areas in Austria to this long-term vision, and they have been taking responsibility for it. And also Greece are saying a lot. They had also somebody in the thematic working group on the European level. But I mean, very little and not at all is almost, what is it, 43%, and that is maybe not such a good grade. And if there was any communication at least, and it's again Austria very good, they communicated a lot to the National Monitoring Committee and also to the public, and this was especially made via internet, direct mailings, social media, and newsletter. And also the National Rural Network was involved in communicating the long-term vision to stakeholders via their website, via newsletter, magazine, and especially encouraging LAGs to actively participate. But here we also have somewhat 38%. It's not so good, and it's more than 50% that feel that there has been maybe very little communication or not at all. And the final result has been even less communicated from the governments to local stakeholders. We think that maybe this shows something, and I think this question is, we know it's a little bit too early to ask this question because we haven't, maybe the governments haven't had the time to react yet, but at least we could maybe find that they are doing things already. And when we ask Austria, there are a lot of answers, as you can see. They have put up a special processes on national level to discuss relevant topics. They have put the findings into the CAP strategic plan, and there has been an open process around it. And there is also awareness that it's not only the common agriculture policy that is responsible. I can say that in Sweden we have gotten answers from people working with the ESF that is the colleagues at the DG Agri's task. So, you know, it has not trickled down in the institutions yet, and it is still a long way to go. And Austria we could learn from, I think. That is the point here. And then if we look at okay, because the vision is a vision, but then we need to be concrete, and I think we need funding to become concrete. So we have been asking about how we put funding in rural areas and how the implementation of the community-led local development is working in rural areas in Europe. And the background is we wanted to know if there are any good examples, and therefore we have been asking for the recovery funds also on the Just Transition Fund and the ESI funds, and if it's being implemented through the community-led local development. And also because we were asking, then we said we also need to know what is the status of the local development strategies in our countries, because we want to start on the 1st of January 2023. That should be the plan. So anyway, when we look at the recovery fund, I think most countries are actually implementing it in rural areas. 6 do not, and I'm not sure, because this is, we asked the stakeholders, so we have not verified this data. This is what they think. But I know in the case of Sweden, we asked the government, and I was so sure that we had the recovery funds in rural areas. We asked it twice, but I don't know if there is some miscommunication there. But yeah, so you know, it's not verified data, but that is how we have it. And Estonia, Ireland, and Romania are even implementing then the recovery fund. The recovery fund via the community-led local development, which is really interesting, I think, because that shows that the country sees maybe the LAGs as something more than just the rural development fund. sorry, I didn't mean to marginalize the Rural Development Fund, which is very important, but we need to have a holistic territorial development through community-led local development. And so Denmark doesn't know, and they have not decided in Austria, Greece, Hungary, and Italy, but 62% are not considering the local action groups as actors that could work with a recovery fund. When it comes to the regional fund, there was here also 5 options, and there was a possibility to answer to a very large extent on the left side here, but there was nobody answering that. There is somewhat, 57%, which is the biggest number, as you can see, and very little or not at all regional fund is being distributed in Lithuania, Spain, and Hungary. And then to a large extent, we have Austria, of course, and then Bulgaria, Croatia, Denmark, Italy, and Poland. And if we look then if the regional fund is being distributed via community-led local development from the LAGs, then we have yes, no, and not decided yet. And Portuguese, I put red because when we made the survey, it was not decided yet, but now they have decided not to. And together with Sweden, that is sad, you know, because those were like the 2 countries that were really implementing community-led local development on a big scale last programming period, and they are both backing now, and I think it's a disaster. What an interesting fact, I think, is that the same countries that to a large extent are putting regional fund on rural areas are the same countries that are using it in community-led local development. So I think we can have 2 theories about that, that either it's very biased people that are answering it, which could be the case, that if you see a regional fund to community-led local development, you have a feeling that it's a lot to a large extent. But I think also that if there is a serious investment in rural development in a country, then you see too that it's all that you're using the existing actors on rural areas, which are the local action groups, and then you will be sure to have a distribution of these funds in all over the country. Yeah, so. The reasons that why countries do not use the regional fund in community-led local development is they have mentioned stuff like there is no interest, there is a lack of communication, a lack of knowledge, or it's too heavy administration for the ministries. So there seemed to be not really a political statement behind it, which is a shame, I think. And when it comes to the European Social Fund, it's a different picture. Croatia, yes, Croatia has to a very large extent, finally this answer was put, because they have a social program for elderly that is being implemented obviously a lot in rural areas. And then also to a large extent we have Denmark, Italy, and Romania. But then Greece, Spain, Lithuania, Slovakia, and Slovenia, there we don't see that ESF is important for rural areas. And then are using community-led local development in the ESF. We have here again the 3 alternatives, or the 4, and Portugal is red again because they are also down at the no. I'm sorry for that. And Austria is of course implementing, and then it's Bulgaria, Estonia, Poland, Romania, and Slovenia. And the amount is not clear yet for many of those, but Estonia is having around 1% of the fund, and Bulgaria and Hungary, and also Romania and Bulgaria is having around 2%. And the answers why they are not using it, it's the same as for the regional fund. There seems to be no communication or no interest, no political interest, or no willingness, or it's even they have taken up its power struggle between actors. So it does not seem to be that there is a decision around what is the best option. And then we have the fisheries fund. And where you can see how big amount is being put from the fisheries fund in the community-led local development, and you can see the percentage, and the percentage of course looks much bigger because the fisheries fund is a smaller fund, and then we have so the percentage is bigger, but the sum is maybe not so big in comparison. And then we have some reasons why the countries do not use it, and that's different than the other funds. It's more like it's the too small fund, or the fishermen insisted they didn't want to, or there is a political decision around it. And yeah, so this seems to be more another kind of decision. Yes, and then we have the Just Transition Fund, and to cut it shortly, it is only being used in Lithuania, Slovakia, and Spain in the community-led local development. And in rural areas, to a large extent, none. And there is also strange, I don't understand, because I thought it was in Sweden, in northern Sweden, but yeah. So those are the results from the survey. And then the last thing that worries me a lot is we asked who has actually submitted the first drafts of the strategies, and it was Finland and Sweden. And I know Czech Republic has done it also, even if they were not taking part of the survey. And then we have, in 1 to 3 months, we'll start Austria, Germany, Netherlands, and Poland. So they will probably also make it on time if they don't have a very slow process. But the rest of the countries are looking at a delay, I think. I think if you start in 6 months from now, then you will not manage to have a strategy that is bottom-up and participatory. Then you have to make much quicker work. So yeah, so we think this is a warning bell. We really need to look how the local development strategies will start on time. Yeah, so I think, then I have some conclusions as well. So as you understood, Austria has been doing very well, and generally I think there is not a real ownership yet on national level around the long-term vision on rural areas, and I guess we have to work together to achieve that. Yeah, so we're good partners. I guess everybody who is in here are in favor of rural development. And when it comes to concrete funding, Austria is a good example. 57% of countries answer somewhat in distributing our ERDF and ESF in rural areas, and I wonder if that somewhat is good enough, or should we go for more? And then we have, I think that the general take-up on new ideas on how the local action groups could work is low, and we need to get more innovative and that, and also maybe for stakeholders at all levels to see the possibility what the LAGs can do or not can do. And now I'm going to quit because we're already late. You can read the rest. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Marion, but you're not allowed to leave yet.
Okay.
Yeah. One question. What are the criteria of becoming an ELOD member?
Oh, you have to be a leader network from a country. You can also, if there is not a leader network in that country, then you can be a local action group before you get, start a leader network. So all our members are actually leader networks, and through that the LAGs are our members. So we have more than 2,200 local action groups affiliated with us, and now we're 29 countries that are members in our organization.
Thank you. Second question, and I read it. If I understood the diagram on the use of the ERDF through CLLD correctly, then Denmark is a new entrant in using CLLD for CP funding.
Yeah, that's what I understand as well. Yeah. Unless somebody answered wrongly, we can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then actually there was a third question, but that question we are saving for the panel later on, because I think they are better equipped to answer that question. So now it is time for a coffee break. Yeah.